Welcome to the Sales Prospector Show, supported by Leaf, a sales rep and Inc. 5000 company, helping our clients grow sales by securing guaranteed appointments, qualified leads, and guaranteed contracts for their services and products across the U.S. I'm your host, Gil Pagan. You can find us on all social media channels and at leafasalesrep.com. Thank you for listening in. It's going to be a great one today.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a great one today. We have the honor and privilege of interviewing Steve Benson, CEO and founder of Badger Mapping. It's a really cool software, and I'm going to try to introduce it in the best way that I understand it. It allows us outside sales reps and teams to be efficient, identifying their customers, developing the best routes to see existing customers and new prospects and be the most efficient way possible, decreasing windshield time and getting the most bang for your buck when you're on the road. And he has a great story to tell. And Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Gil. It's great to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to our conversation, man. And tell us a little bit about you and how you started Badger Mapping, and how it just came to fruition. And then we'll get right into what Badger Mapping is and the topic at hand today, which is outside sales dead? I got a problem with that, quite frankly, but let's have that conversation together. All right, go ahead, man.
As do I. Well, yeah, so my background, how Badger got started, I guess, was I was at Google and I was working on their mapping products. And I also had a background in field sales. And so I kind of could see, as the internet was getting faster, the mobile internet, and kind of the phones were getting better, and the Google Maps API had developed to a point where we'd be able to build a piece of software to solve this problem, this set of problems really that field salespeople had had for a long time. So what I set out to do when I started Badger in 2012 was to kind of join together mapping technology, digital calendaring, and all of our reps' data about their customers, so that they would be able to make good decisions based on kind of where are they going to have to be tomorrow, or who do they have to see this week? What does that look like on a map? And who should they focus on given where they're going to be? What are the other important customers to see? And what is the best way to do that? What is the route? What is the schedule? When will you be where? And give them a tool to plan all that out in an automated way, to really make them a lot more effective and efficient in the field, and less windshield time, that sort of thing. So that's how Badger got started. Was just, I understood these problems and I understood the technology that one would use to solve them. And it took years. I mean, it took, 4 years to get the product to a point where it was really commercially strong enough that it could hold its own. And then once we kind of had the base level, we've kind of been building more and more capabilities on top of it since then. And that was probably around 2016 that it really came into its own.
Wow, that's great. So you actually had experience in field sales, right, and outside work, and saw a need. And I guess from the development perspective, did you actually do coding, or did you kind of got some people who know how to code and type across a black screen, or a blue screen, or drag a widget? How did it happen?
Yeah, so from my background is not in coding, so I have not coded one line of code in Badger. My background was in business, and my whole career has been in field sales. So I'd never. It wasn't a good time to learn to code. So yeah, I mean, my co-founder ran kind of the technology, and still to this day is the VP of the engineering teams and runs the product teams, and kind of the whole what the product looks and feels like, how it works, that sort of thing.
Got it. Love it. Yeah. Typically sales people are not, it's two sides of a different side of the brain. Where versus a technology writing code guy versus a communication sales, warm and fuzzy type, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Different types of people. I mean, listen, we're, we're having these conversations. When I say we, the sales industry, people who are managing sales reps, people who are selling product, services, and the conversation revolves around is outside sales dead? It just like we hear is cold calling dead, and not necessarily, but there are ways to be doing it nowadays than we were doing it before. So is outside sales really warranted and needed pre-COVID? We're not talking about COVID right now because obviously people are not necessarily seeing a lot of people, right? So is outside sales still a requirement and a need in the B2B sector or the B2C sector? I mean, what is your thoughts on that? I'll give you my thoughts. Obviously, we're in the industry, and you have a service, a mapping service that serves reps, right? I have a company that has outside sales teams on contract for business, so I got a problem with that. So go ahead, tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So yeah, I would definitely say outside sales isn't dead. I think that inside sales in certain industries has become a lot more popular. And there's not one answer to, are you better off with inside sales or, in face-to-face, in-person field sales? Or, I mean, frankly, are you better off selling over the internet or over having a retail store? And I think these answers can change for an individual industry or company over time, based on the competitive landscape, based on the complexity of the product, based on how the commoditization of the product has it become commoditized over time. But there are many products today that the best way to go to market is clearly with field sales teams, and the evidence being the way that's the way everyone in that industry goes to market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think go there. You hear a lot in software, people are like, oh, we don't use field sales anymore, but that's because software is a lot cheaper than it used to be, right? Like when I was a field sales rep in software, we would do $500,000 deals, $1 million deals. You would buy a piece of software and you'd get a CD and you now own it. You own it forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today, software is more leased almost, right? You buy it on a monthly or an annual basis. It's a lot cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
You're allowed to just try it out first. Most companies have some kind of trial program. And so inside sales fits better with that, because it is cheaper. There's not as much margin in it. And I think the ability, and people are just more comfortable. It's not as much of a relationship sale, and there's not as many questions because you can try it out and you can learn so much about it. So that's an example of an industry that has changed over time. But for many industries, like we have customers and, medical device and pharmaceutical, like the way to get stuff in front of doctors or dentists or something is with a field salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
And all the, as you go up and down the street in Main Street, USA, right? All those stores, they in general they're selling to consumers, and the people that are selling to those stores are generally field salespeople for many products, especially any products that are complex or, so if you're selling tires to tire stores for Pirelli, you're going to be doing that with a field sales teams. And I think that will continue to be the case. Even now in a COVID world, we're seeing that, right? And I've kind of got a unique view of what's going on with field sales, because we have 5,000 companies using Badger for their field sales teams, right? So I can see and run reports and data on who's having what meetings where and how often, and so we've seen about a 20% decline in meetings with customers that's occurred since before COVID. But that's been very unevenly distributed, I would say, meaning that like some industries, they just kind of ground to a standstill, laid off their sales team. Maybe the company went bankrupt, but they are not using Badger. They either put it on pause or canceled it. On the other hand, a lot of companies are still in business and they're still employing their sales teams, and their sales teams are still out business as usual, meeting with customers and and they're doing it in a distanced and safe way. And a lot of industries that use a lot of the industries that are using our Badger are considered essential, right? It's medical devices or pharmaceuticals, et cetera. But it was the reps that sell beer to bars or gym equipment to gyms. Those are out of business because the bar's closed or the gym's closed. Or even where the gym's open in a limited way, they're generally not buying new equipment. So, but yeah, I mean, a medical device rep is selling to just as many. They're selling just as many shoulder joints to doctors that they were before, but they're just doing their meetings in a socially distanced way. In the midterm and the long term, I think we'll see a lot of these jobs come back too. I mean, the companies that sell gym equipment to gyms or beer bars or glasses to hotels and restaurants, as soon as those industries come back up again, we'll see those come back. It may be as a different company name, but because the original went bankrupt, et cetera. But they'll be back, and that'll probably be as soon as people have access to vaccines is when I assume that they'll be able to come back.
No, that's good. So you saw a 20% decrease before COVID.
From before COVID. So COVID caused a 20% decrease.
Oh, got it. Okay, got it. So 20% increase because of COVID. Got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Was reading a report today that came out based on a statement from Bill Gates. He was at the New York Times a deal book conference. I'm not sure if it was a face-to-face conference or a virtual. I think it was virtual. And he mentioned that he sees a 50% drop in biz travel post-COVID. I don't know if I agree with that, but it's just an interesting statement because we have gotten used to working in a remote environment, Zoom and all these, meetings and Microsoft meetings and all those kind of things. He has a Microsoft Meetings software platform too, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. So that there's a decrease, and that only essential business is going to be required. They're going to be looking at it really closely. Do you really have to get on a plane to go somewhere? And that 50% of biz travel. 50% of revenue of airlines is biz travel, 50% of the revenue. So that's another industry is going to take, potentially in theory, if he's correct, will take a hit. And this is the concept of trying to do everything online, again, phones and Zoom and not have to travel. But I agree with you. There are a lot of industries that are essential that are continuing to do business with outside sales teams. They have to go out and see people, and medical industry is one of them. Hospitals, another, even manufacturing and auto plants, these places need to see reps with product in hand and have conversations that are much more detailed. The rep is the expert on the product, if you will, and it's not commoditized, as you shared. These are things where discussions have to be had face to face, if you will, with the product in hand, and show the value of the need for the outside sales teams. And there are a lot of industries that are home services, right, as well. And these are the ones where you pick up the phone and call the HVAC guy, you call the plumbing guy, you call the pest control guy, you call the landscaper. These people that come out and do these kind of home services, some of them are the actual technicians that do the work, but some of them are sales reps, and they're going to sell these services, new HVAC, $8,000 system, that kind of thing. And that has to be done face to face. It's not, you got to see the customer, you got to, visit the home and look at the units. So there's a lot of consumer services, home services that need sales rep. Buying cars, even though you can buy them on Carvana, it's still basically a face-to-face business. Test drive, talk to the rep, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of industries that are clearly are sales rep focused and heavy because, selling a house, insurance, all these kind of things, real estate. I just commercial, going and look at a commercial space. I mean, you need a rep for that. That's a lot of areas that we believe that outside sales is still important to have that face-to-face rep. And so that said, with your talking about your software and how, since if we have a limited amount of sales reps outside in theory, because some of them are now more online behind the screen, kind of like we are right now. We want to make sure that that rep is extremely efficient, spending, as much time in front of the customer and not traveling as much if possible, and getting the bang ROI per mile, and the app per hour that you're paying them. So talk a little bit about how Badger Mapping, does that, and makes us more efficient, to see customers and prospects, and how that it plots out the route for the rep, and how we can get reports in the back end, like you were talking about. You were looking at reports on your platform of customers, and which is great data, by the way. That's fantastic from a macro perspective. And tell us about that and how it works.
Yeah, for sure. So basically what Badger does is it's an application that's on your computer and it's on your phone. It's an app in the App Store, both Apple and Android. And what it does is it connects, or I guess how it works is it connects to your data source about your customers. So for a lot of companies, that's their CRM system. For some companies, it's an in-house database, maybe an ERP system or a billing system, but they have their customer, everyone has their customer data somewhere, even if it's just a Google Doc or a spreadsheet or something. Their data lives somewhere. And so what Badger does is we'll connect to that information, and kind of in a real time way, meaning that like if a change is made in Badger, it'll update that system. And if a change is made in that system, it'll update in Badger. And we take all that information about everyone's customers, and we put that information on a map, so that kind of like Yelp does with restaurants, right? And then you can filter and kind of figure out where are our best customers, who has this characteristic and this characteristic, like who's spending this much with me every month and has this big of a footprint, and I haven't seen them in 3 months. Show me companies with those attributes on the map right now, because I know that I'm going to this area over here on the map. I'm driving out to Springfield, so I want to know who's important like that out in that general direction, so that I can make sure I see them when I'm out there. Then another thing it does is help you actually build out and figure out, well, in what order should I go to see these customers? Because maybe I'm going to go see 8 customers tomorrow, right? Some of them maybe I'm dropping in on, some of them I've got appointments with, but these are the ones I want to see. Can you tell me what order I should see them in that is optimized? Which direction should I go? And perhaps I have some constraints, like I have to see this one at 10 o'clock. I have to see this one at 2 p.m. that you kind of, and we give you a way to work around that. And then finally is the scheduling element of it. So figuring out, okay, and what's the timing of that going to look like? Like, when will I be at each one of these places? What time do I have to leave this place in order to make it to this place on time? Stuff like that, and helping people think about traffic and giving them kind of the ability to design their day in a way that makes sense. So I guess that's kind of how we do it. We connect to their data and then give them tools to integrate with their data. We're connected to like lead gen sources, so sources of information about customers that are external to a company, and we'll layer that information over the company's information. So like, let's just say you sell stuff to dentists, and you know where most of the dentists are in your territory, but then you can also ask Badger, well, show us in another layer, lay all the dentists over our dentists here, meaning that like we'd be able to see everything that we know about, and it'll have one type of pin on the map, and then show us all the ones that you know about with a different type of pin, so we can see if we're missing anything.
Let me ask you a question. I'm sorry to interrupt. So
yeah.
if you're going into a new territory, let's say we're going to be selling point of sale systems to independent grocery stores.
Sure.
In, let's say, Washington Heights, Manhattan, Upper Manhattan. And we don't have any new customers there. It's a new service, and we're selling it into these places. So to use Badger as a mapping service kind of thing, would we have to upload the data set? Let's say we got 500. Let's say 500 bodegas. I don't know if you know what a bodega is. You do, okay. Okay. Bodega. What's a bodega? It's a mini soubrette for the people who who don't know what that means. In New York City, it's called a bodega. We got 500 bodegas, and we're going to upload that information. Can we upload it directly into Badger, or do we upload it into the CRM, and then it will kind of map those customers, those prospects, to see them, where they are and that kind of thing. And will it also verify any information, like kind of like the Yelp model? Is this store open? Is it closed? All that kind of stuff. Help us understand kind of a little bit of the mechanics of how that works for a new rep using Badger with a new territory selling a new product. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's a great question. And the answer is we could do it either way. It depends what's best for that particular company.
Okay.
So if that company has a CRM system that they're actively using, that they're using as the one true source of their data, and then we'll just connect into that data source. And then if you had 500 new customers in this new area that you're going into, you would just upload them into that CRM system, and Badger's already connected to it. So it would show up on your map. If you aren't using a CRM system, but you had just, gotten this, you've got your existing customers that you know about, and then you've got these new customers in this new area, you would just give Badger those two, and you had them in a spreadsheet, for example. If you weren't using a CRM system, you would just give those spreadsheets and upload them into the system, and it would put it on the map. So you can get there in either of those ways, depending on kind of where your company's at and what works best for you. We've built it to support both.
Can you do a walking map instead of a driving?
Yeah, you can do walking directions too. That's
Okay.
important in places like Manhattan.
Yeah, it's very dense, and go down one block, over across one, you're going to see two stores down the other block, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, and
Mhm.
we don't actually give turn by turn directions. When you're ready to do, like, okay, I'm ready for my I'm ready to go. You just press go on your route, and it'll launch whichever is your preferred directions algorithm app. So we're integrated with Google Maps, we're integrated with Waze, we're integrated with Apple Maps, and so you just choose whichever one you prefer, and so you get all the capabilities of those in addition to this.
So from the admin perspective, so you're a sales manager, and you got a couple of reps in a market, and they're out. The plan is to go out today into, let's say, we'll stay with the Washington Heights example. You're going to have 3 reps working that market, and they all got different, let's say different data sets. Can the admin person go in and see the actual rep live, kind of going from this place, or where that rep is at the point? Does the map, almost like Google Maps with your driving navigation, will tell, well, this rep is probably right now on 176th Street, on 2nd Avenue, going into this location? Can you actually track where they are to say, yeah, I'm in Manhattan. Meanwhile, they're in Westchester County somewhere.
Right. So we've
Big
actually, so
Brother
we
is
have,
watching. Yeah.
yeah, we have not built like the Big Brother view in, I guess I'd call it, like the
Yeah.
ability to say, okay, they are right here at this point. Like I
Right.
can see they're in this Starbucks at 34th and Harrison.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we haven't done that on purpose. It's actually not terribly, that wouldn't be complex for us to do, but we've chosen not to do it yet.
Okay.
And the reason we've chosen not to do that is we've done it in a way that we think is less intrusive but better. And what that way is we can, when you do a meeting, you take notes on the meeting, right?
Right.
And you can do that right in Badger. It'll send back to your CRM system. And one of in the questions, the information, the data that you're capturing in after the meeting is customized to every customer. They just let us know, okay, these are the questions we want asked or filled out after every meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they save that, and this is called a check-in, the notes that you take is called a check-in. So when you save your check-in, one of the pieces of information that it's saving is the latitude and longitude that the phone was at when the check-in was saved.
Ah,
And
got it.
so
Got it.
rather, because we kind of think that and this is kind of philosophical, but we kind of think that it's nobody's business where a rep is at this very second. However, their job is to have met with this customer at 34th and Harrison at this time and then take notes on it. And so when they press save, you can see, yeah, they were at 34th and Harrison um, at this time, and here are the notes. So you can't see where they're having lunch because they're not doing a check-in, but you can see you can see where they said they were when they said they were there, if that makes sense. Do you kind of see the difference?
No, no, I understand because they're doing the check-in, it's grabbing the longitude and latitude, and that tells you where they were. But can they? I'm just looking from management perspective. So if they don't do the check-in and they decide to do their check-ins later, let's say they want to do it later, 5 check-ins, and they decide to go downtown Canal Street and have a cup of coffee and then do 5 check-ins, can they do that from the Badger map, and that's going to pick up
Mm-hmm.
longitude in Canal Street though? It's not going to pick
Exactly.
up.
Yeah.
Okay,
They can totally do that. I mean, it's not going to block them, but
gotcha.
a lot of companies have if companies are worried about where their reps are at a given
Yeah,
time, and this is kind of depending on what you're selling, right? Like
sure, sure.
there are some industries that are like, if you have a bunch of med device reps that you're paying 100 grand a year, 150 grand a year, you tend not to be worried about it. But if you're selling, vacuum cleaners door to door, then you are worried about where is John right now? Like, is he slacking off? And so it's kind of, there's different,
Yeah,
the way you manage sales teams is just different in different industries. And
of
so
course.
in the industries where there is more of that like micromanagement slant to it, then they'll just make it a rule. Like you have to have you have to check into your meetings like right after your meetings.
Right, right.
Don't do all 40 of your meetings this week on Friday. We want to, from your house, we want to see it in real time coming in. And so they just make it that rule for those places. So to avoid that very problem.
That's good.
Now, and that feature has been requested a lot. It's
Really?
something that we could like the ability to like actually see all my reps on a map. But I think it's more of like it just looks cool. Like in practice, I think the way we've done it is actually better for everybody and like a better managerial practice.
Okay.
It's if some large company tells us they need it, we're probably gonna make it at some point. But we'd make that you have to request to turn it on feature, meaning like the company would have to say, yeah, we want you to turn this on for us. And we would kind of tell them at the time, like, actually, we recommend that you do it this way because people aren't going to like, people don't want you tracking when they're at their girlfriend's house for lunch, right? Like they don't want, they want to keep that, they want to keep their private lives private. And this way shows that you're doing your job, but, and that you are where you say you are when you're supposed to be there, but it also you don't have to remember to turn the app off every night, or else your boss knows where you're hanging out at 8:00 at night. That's kind of we think that the way we've done it is the way that fixes the problem for everybody.
That's cool. That's fine. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one asking the question. Which is interesting. That's good. Thank you for the confirmation. It's just out of curiosity in that he or she are going to actually see clients and not sitting down in O'Malley's pub. And throw them back.
Exactly.
Or
Exactly.
if you're out of work, I mean, you're done. Okay, fine.
Right.
Not an issue, right? Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and that's why we've done it the way we've done it. And this was there were many conversations that brought us to this point as we kind of like figure it out. Okay, well, and it's tricky. We've seen a lot of big companies screw up privacy stuff, and so we kind of were able to learn from some of their mistakes, over the years that they've made, and figure out, okay, this is the best way to do this.
So no, it's good. Thank you for sharing that. So clearly, people are using maps, the Badger mapping and this type of platform to make their reps efficient and decrease time, wasted time, things like that. Get the most bang per hour, if you will, of work, and management can look on the back end at reports and see how they can make them even more efficient. They have some data to work. You're taking too long in meetings, if you will, or just questioning things to make the sales process better, which is good. Just that kind of oversight. In your I guess in your customer base, what, I guess, industries do you see really benefiting a lot from, this type of platform based on your client base, industry verticals, and opportunities you see going forward? I know of a
Mhm.
couple based on what you're doing, but you have some really good data. They don't tell us who they are, just kind of the industry
Sure.
verticals.
Yeah, I mean, it's med device, pharmaceuticals.
Mhm.
An easier way to do is think about like think about the types of companies that sell to a certain type of customer.
Mhm.
So it's less about industries necessarily, but it's like if you were thinking about farmers, it's not it's people that so you want to think about people that sell things to farmers often will do it with field sales as opposed to thinking about like um, you know the the machinery rental industry
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
they have field salespeople. So that's a good industry. But the way I would think of it is they sell stuff to farmers, and anyone selling stuff to farmers. The way you get stuff in front of farmers is you go out to their farm and you're like, hey, this is this. Can we tell you about this type of machinery,
Mhm.
this new
Mhm.
type of seed or this type of fertilizer, or have you thought about dealing with this in this way? And but the way you communicate with them is generally going to them,
Right.
like if it's a dentist or a doctor or a store owner, like you mentioned grocery store owners and POS systems. That's exactly the type of group that uses Badger. But it's also tires to tire stores. It's amazing. um, it's probably 20% of companies go to market with field sales reps. So you could have a store, right? But it wouldn't really help you to open up a POS store in Times Square, right? Like all the bodega owners wouldn't go to the POS store, point of sales
Right.
store in Times Square, right? So you wouldn't go to market with retail. They're
Mhm.
also not gonna, you wouldn't sell it online because they're not going to come. They've already got a POS system. So if you have a better one, then you got to proactively show it to them. You can't just like open up a website. So online's not going to work.
Right.
Um, inside sales, it's going to be tough to get that person on the phone. They're not going to return your phone call. They're not going to pick up the phone. You call the grocery store and talk to a bagger and say, hey, could I talk to the owner of the store about the POS system? They're be like, no, they don't talk to people. So you gotta,
They don't
you
talk
got
to people.
you kind of have to show up, right?
Right.
And build the relationship. So for certain types of industries, selling to certain types of people, like it's just the best way to get in front of people. And that's why the topic of the thing today, the discussion today, is field sales dead? It's like definitely not. I mean, field sales is made more difficult until we've all been vaccinated. But like you were talking about, like, okay, Bill Gates or the CEO of Zoom, basically anyone that sells software or something that enables working from home is like, yeah, the office is dead. We're never going back to offices
Right. Right.
after this.
Right.
Oh, field sales. We're never going to have
Put
field
it in
sales
context.
again. And it's like,
Right. Right.
yeah, I'm like, I'd like to make Bill Gates $1 billion bet on that. I bet we will be going back to, I don't have $1 billion, but I'll bet you $1 billion.
Right. Right. I know you're gonna
that
lose it, so I ain't got it. Doesn't matter.
yeah, we'll be back in offices. And the company, most companies have not stopped their field sales activities. It's more based on, is the person they're selling to open or not, right? Like, so tire stores are open, so people that sell
Auto
tires
repair.
they're still going to tire stores, right? But bars are not open, and so the people that sell beer to bars are not selling beer to bars that way.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think we could have just had retail stores or talked on the phone or done things, um, you know, or just had a website when we sold stuff to dentists before COVID. There's a reason we didn't. There was a reason that the companies that make a med device for dentists, they sold field sales to people, and they will continue to as soon as there's a vaccine and everyone's the world will go back to normal is my prediction. But I understand why the CEO of Zoom would say, we're never going to leave our bedrooms again. Everyone should buy our product right now. You might as well
Yeah.
just start paying now because you're never leaving your bedroom again.
Right, right.
So that's my thought there.
No, that's fine. I appreciate that. I get it. I think that everything will, at one point, return back to normal. Outside sales teams will continue to sell their products and services, the one that are conducive to the outside sales. People will go back into the offices. Although the office footprint, I think you and I spoke offline about this, may decrease for the businesses. They may have 5,000 square feet and realize, you know what, we don't need five. We can probably do with three, and we can have some people working remotely and some outside sales teams. So that may, but still, you're going to still have the model. It may be a little bit different, but I think that people will go back into the offices and we will resort back to normal. But there will be some shifts in how we're doing business, but not it's not going to be catastrophic. I think that that we're going to have back, a lot of outside salespeople getting back out there and doing their thing, and our people as well. We're doing stuff now. We got outside salespeople selling into healthcare, hospitals. They're seeing us. Granted, not in the volume that we're used to, but we are getting meetings. We are doing outside sales work. We are going into manufacturing plants, some auto manufacturing as well. We're going into some places there as well. So we are out there and seeing clients. So it's not totally closed out. So is outside sales dead? No. Now clearly it's kind of maybe been slowed down a bit given the environment we're in. And after everything opens up, we will go back to outside sales teams in a more normal fashion, whatever that looks like after COVID. But getting into the to the lightning round questions here, more about you. This is more the fun stuff. Has nothing to do with the business per se. So, are you a coffee drinker? And if you are, hot or cold?
So I will drink tea. I will drink coffee.
Okay.
I will drink coffee. I drink hot coffee, and I will also drink cold brew. So this is cold brew that I have right now, but I drink a lot of hot coffee, and I do tea too. If it's caffeinated, I'll pretty much do it.
I'm down with it. Yeah, I got you. Do you eat hot dogs?
I'm from Chicago, man. I mean,
There
of
you go, man.
course.
You put mustard or ketchup or other stuff.
So in Chicago, we believe that ketchup does belong on a hot dog, but not a bratwurst. So in Chicago, a Chicago style hot dog has everything on it: pickles and onions and relish and
Chili and coleslaw and whatever you want on it.
all the things. Yeah, but so we want everything on a hot dog, and on a bratwurst, we just want mustard and onions, either raw or grilled, and sauerkraut. Those are the only things that belong on a bratwurst. Some combination of those three. But a hot dog, I mean, if you want to just put a slice of pizza on top of a hot dog, that's fine.
Yeah, so I'm gonna assume Chicago pizza. You eat pizza as well, clearly.
I do. I eat Chicago style pizza, but I enjoy all the colors of pizza. All the types.
I got you. Are you a PC or a Mac guy?
I do PCs. Not that I think the Mac is a finer piece of hardware, but I learned all the shortcuts and how to use a PC. It's just an extension of my brain at this point, and I think the Mac has caught up in terms of being a business tool, and I think it's a finer piece of hardware, like the screen and the mouse and all the things that they've done a better job from a design perspective, I think. But it'd be a real pain for me to relearn all the shortcuts and how to do things, and it's the devil. I'm going to stick with the devil I know on this one.
I got you. Obviously you're in Chicago, so I'm assuming you love the cold weather, or would you prefer somewhere hot?
Well, I'm actually in Los Angeles. I grew up in Chicago, so my hot dog opinions have followed me, but I've chosen a warmer lifestyle.
Good for you. So if you had any place to go right now and money and time was not an issue, anywhere, where would you go?
Well, until COVID, I went to Europe probably 3 times a year because I have a big team over there, a lot of
Okay.
engineers and salespeople, and because we have our whole European operations, and I miss a lot of those guys, and I love going to Spain. So if I could go anywhere right now, it would be a business trip to Spain to see that team and hang out in southern Spain where that office is.
Okay, okay, cool. That's great to know. So, and last question, if you had one superpower, and that would be given to you, what would that superpower be? It doesn't have to be business related. It can be,
Hmm.
but just a superpower that is given to you and you can use freely.
This is a good one. I'm kind of running through the Avengers in my mind right now.
Okay.
I think I'd want to be able to stop time, like just like stop time and take an 8 hour nap right now, or stop time and read a book, or just kind of catch up on my emails. Time is a key resource for me that has always been limited. So to be able to stop or slow down time would be very useful. I
Wow.
guess that's more of a thing we see more commonly in the DC universe. I forget the name of that guy that was in the movie with Batman and Superman. That kind of their competitor to the Avengers. One of those guys was real fast. The Flash was his name.
Flash,
I forget, but I like his power.
I got you. Oh, that's excellent. Thanks for sharing that. So, in summary, we are talking with Steve Benson of Badger Mapping. Give us the audience a 30-second summary of the points that we covered, meaning on Badger Mapping and what it does, and how it helps sales teams be more efficient.
Sure. So Um, I guess we covered today the death of field sales. Is it dying? And the answer was definitely no. It's
Oh, wait.
not dead now. And when things open up, once we have a vaccine, it'll be even less dead.
Yes, I
but
agree. Yeah.
but yeah, and then we talked about Badger and how we help field sales teams do a variety of things to be more effective in this field, focus on their best customers. Um, Drive less miles per and get more meetings with the best customers they have, um,
Mm.
and how it just kind of makes their lives easier and makes them more organized.
And how it integrates on the back end with all your CRMs and pulls
Mm-hmm.
great reports for management to look at productivity and where your reps were and things of that nature. So it's all around good tool to use if you got outside sales teams, and to make your teams more efficient and get more bang for your buck. Uh,
Yeah.
Listen, Steve, I appreciate being able to chat with you. I love the conversation. You guys are doing some great work over there. Great platform. You seem to have a really good team working for you, and obviously you came from the field sales environment, so you got some street cred there on building this thing. Good for you, and I love what you guys are doing. Thanks so much. I enjoyed the conversation today.
Thanks so much for having me. And if anybody wants to check out Badger, just mention this podcast that you heard me to my sales reps, and they'll give you 2 months free to kick it around and try it out. Make sure that it works for you.
No, that's great. And the website is what?
Badgermapping.com.
Badgermapping.com. Thanks to everyone for listening, and thanks for being with us today.